Welcome to American Medicine Today. I'm Kimberly Bonati alongside Ethan Youker. Exciting show lined up. Let's get right to it. A new book journeys into the dangerous world of international arms dealing, covert intelligence operations, and high-level political corruption. Joining us to discuss is returning guest Geoffrey Gilson, geopolitical expert, former speechwriter for Margaret Thatcher, and author of Maggie's Hammer. Welcome back to the program, Geoffrey.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Ethan. Happy to be here.
Now, there's a lot to unpack with this book. It all started with the death of a friend. Is that correct?
Yes. My close friend and political mentor, Hugh Simmons, who was like me, a speechwriter for Margaret Thatcher, turned up dead in the woods near where we lived in November 1988. We lived in a small town, 20,000 people outside of London, living quite normal lives until he turned up dead in very mysterious circumstances.
Well, and didn't they try to say that first? I think they tried to say that it was a suicide. Then didn't you end up initially becoming a suspect yourself? Tell us about that.
Well, yes. I mean, he was a lawyer and there was money missing from his client's account, which didn't make any sense to me. I was a senior employee. I didn't know anything about this. It was about $7 million missing. But the establishment, police force, law society said, well, the money's gone. He's dead. It must have been suicide. I don't know to what extent any kind of autopsy was undertaken, but that was basically their view. What we did, what I then made to move to America, but they followed me to America and had spent 3 days interviewing me. And I was like, why? And they said, well, we can't find the money. So now we're looking for suspects and you're top of the list.
Well, and you had different governments after you as well. You know, obviously the British government, the Israelis were after you, the American CIA. Tell us about all of that. It's such a crazy story.
Well, I mean, the short version is it didn't make any sense to me, and particularly after they started suspecting me, I had to come back to England to try and clear my name, and also at the same time to try and find out what was going on. I asked basically all of the right questions in all of the wrong places, and found it started when I went up into Scotland to meet with the guy. I'd met him once at a party of Hugh's, and Hugh had sort of mentioned in passing, we were sort of involved in covert stuff a while ago. Okay, well, here I am faced with an equation which doesn't add up. I thought I'd turn up on his doorstep. I did a lot of that and just ask him the questions. Well, he was furious. And as the book describes, we then got into an hour-long car chase with 2 other vehicles, at the end of which he dumped me out of the moving car and took a shot at me. And so I disappeared into the door of the parking lot. I had no idea what was going on. He then turned around and called me and said, look, sorry about that. I had my orders, but we think you might be useful. And from that moment on, we were trading information. I presented all of this to the police and the law society as they went along over the years. They weren't interested. And they said, well, he took the money, he turned up dead. And I said, if that's the case, why are there all these people all around the world saying, oh, yeah, he did that $28 million arms deal for Margaret Thatcher. Oh, yes, he was laundering money for Robert Maxwell, father of Ghislaine Maxwell, friend of Jeffrey Epstein. And they didn't want to know. And the didn't want to know over the years became stop talking about it and then became threats.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Geoffrey Gilson after this. You are watching American Medicine Today. Revolutionary in his field, Dr. Bonati created, perfected, and patented the Bonati Spine Procedures. Using his genius, Bonati invented the precise tools necessary to minimize surgery, scarring, anesthesia, and recovery. So successful are the Bonati Spine Procedures, they consistently reflect 98.75% patient satisfaction. 80,000 procedures have been performed exclusively at our location. Nearly half our patients have suffered from failed back and neck surgeries at other facilities. Bonati succeeds where others fail. Welcome back to American Medicine Today. We're continuing our intriguing discussion with Geoffrey Gilson.
You have links between Epstein, Trump, Russian collusion, Tulsi Gabbard's report. You even mentioned something about the assassination of Charlie Kirk last time. Like, how do you tie all that together?
Well, I'll give you another one of them short versions, okay?
Okay.
Basically, what I discovered was that Hugh was the money launderer for a group of people around Margaret Thatcher, with whom he was closely associated, who were engaged in arms dealing and money laundering. He provided money laundering services. I thought that was where it would end. I thought that was all I was going to be looking at. He turns up dead, so it came to a temple halt. Well, no, it didn't, because then I discovered that he was involved with Ari Ben Menashe, who's this Israeli intelligence officer, who is the source of a number of conspiracy theories at the moment out there. I then discovered he was involved with Robert Maxwell, and Jeffrey Epstein came to London in the 80s. I have no evidence that he was involved with Jeffrey Epstein, but according to Ari Ben Menashe, Epstein also met with Robert Maxwell, was also working with Robert Maxwell and other arms dealers, and that's where Epstein made his start in the covert world, was in arms dealing and money laundering. So you fast forward to the noughts and the teens. Epstein's in New York. Yes, he was engaging in political blackmail at the behest of Mossad, who had also recruited him in London. But more importantly, he was still involved in arms dealing and money laundering, especially for the Russians and the Russian mafia, who were also laundering money for Vladimir Putin. Putin had about $70 billion, has about $70 billion laundered overseas. Russiagate was not about trying to undermine Trump. It was about trying to gain favor with any and all American politicians who would help to undo legislation that potentially was going to freeze Putin's assets. The legislation is still there. He's still trying to get the legislation unfrozen. But the very same people who were helping him launder money out, a Russian mob leader called Semyon Moyelevich, was the same Russian mob leader who was helping Hugh and Robert Maxwell launder the proceeds from arms sales in the 80s into Eastern Europe. Have I lost you yet?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That threw out enough names. It is that complex. Wow. So I'm sitting there in the 90s investigating this. It's never stopped. I had an interview the other day saying, does this never end? And I said, no, it doesn't. These are now hugely powerful players, hugely powerful networks, and they are still influencing events. Charlie Kirk, there's a lot of rumors out there, but in the weeks before Charlie Kirk died, alongside the fact that he was becoming unhappy about Gaza, he was on a show with Megyn Kelly, and he mentioned to Megyn Kelly that he'd started looking at Epstein's links to Mossad, what I've just been talking about, which most people miss. And I believe that Tyler Richardson did not act on his own. He may have been radicalized. There may have been forces behind him. And if that's true, I suspect some element of Israeli intelligence, because they don't mind people talking about Gaza. Donald Trump has doubts about what the Israelis are doing in Gaza, but they absolutely would not want someone of Charlie Kirk's visibility looking into the connections between Epstein and Mossad. Epstein is a much more considerable figure in intelligence activities than the mainstream media has understood.
Does that make you fear for your life? And I don't mean to have that be an offensive question, but...
No, another short version. I was shot at once. I was warned out of Europe. I have been told that I'm safe at the moment because if I turn up dead in the canal, too many questions would get raised.
Well, stay safe, my friend.
Not only that, hopefully you've backed up all your evidence and you're sending it out. God forbid anything went south.
Mm-hmm.
No. The evidence is with loads of people. So that I actually shouldn't say that, because then they say, "Oh, well, then we don't mind if we kill him." No, the evidence was there's a lot of safe people. So I'm probably safe, and so is the evidence.
Well, we hope it stays that way. Thank you so much for being on our program yet again. Geoffrey Gilson, geopolitical expert, former speechwriter for Margaret Thatcher, and author of Maggie's Hammer. Thank you for taking the time to be on the show.
Thanks, Geoff.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's all the time we have for this segment. Make sure you stay tuned. We'll have more after the break. You are watching American Medicine Today. We sat down with Bonnie just one day after her targeted Bonati Spine Procedures.
I came to be in pain from a car accident in 2010, and it's progressively gotten worse since. My pain started in my lower back and eventually went down my left leg and started hurting both my hips as well. The past year I've been having trouble walking and haven't had much feeling in my left leg at all. I cannot cook dinner for my family. I wasn't able to sleep more than maybe 2 hours a night. A good night, maybe 3 or 4 hours. Hard to pretty much clean anything, play with my daughter, do laundry, driving. Everything was pretty much a very hard task for me to do without help.
Bonnie lived like this for years, trying conservative treatments, but none of them provided lasting relief from pain. Then, in 2017, she learned about the Bonati Spine Institute.
I did about 6 years of chiropractic care. I've had many injections in my lower back, like nerve block injections and steroid injections, massages pretty much every month, sometimes more, using all kinds of creams and lotions and pain pills and just anything I could get trying to help my pain. I had 2 people through friends that had very successful surgeries with Bonati, and I started asking lots of questions, how they were doing now and how their surgery went. And after that, and coming to the Bonati Spine Institute, that's when I decided to pick Bonati.
Dr. Bonati shows us why Bonnie was experiencing her level of pain.
This is a case that is very dramatic because of the amount of pain that the patient has. But the patient's a young person who had a massive herniation on the 5S1 level. This herniation is transferred to see how big is the hernia here. If you look at this hernia at this level, canal for the spinal cord is very wide. It's a young type of a spine. But when you see at the level of the damage, you can see how this one looks totally flat. See how nice and round is the canal here. This canal looks like the spinal cord here is being pushed by this element on this side. This is a rupture of the disc. And if you look at this, it's a massive rupture. See the deformity is flattening the nerve that is on the left side. That is a nerve that goes from the back to the butt, to the back of the thigh, back of the calf, and outside of the ankle. So this patient has a tremendous large compression of the S1 nerve root.
The exclusive Bonati Spine procedures are performed incrementally using conscious IV sedation. This keeps the patient comfortable and awake in order to communicate with their surgeon the instant their pain is eliminated.
Here, you can be awake and you're able to watch the procedure if you want. You're able to hear what they're talking about and what's going on. But at the same time, you're able to verbalize where it's hurting, so they know exactly what to do to you. I just found that amazing, and I don't think I would have done back surgery without that. Now I'm walking at least 40 minutes a day without pain. Right after surgery, I could feel a huge difference, and last night, the first night I slept after my second surgery, my legs did not hurt all night long.
Bonnie highly recommends the Bonati Spine Institute to anyone suffering with neck or back pain.
I'm looking forward to getting back to playing with my daughter and my husband as a family, and also hopefully rollerblading once again someday. Based on the results I have, I will, and I have already recommended Bonati to a few friends of mine, and I definitely will be talking about them forever because they have changed my life, and I can't wait to see some more results as I work on my recovery.
To see more stories of recovery just like this, search for the Bonati Spine Institute on YouTube, Rumble, Apple's App Store, Google's Play Store, Roku, and Amazon's Fire TV. That's all the time we have for this episode of American Medicine Today. If you would like to see other episodes, download American Medicine Today to your favorite streaming app. If you have any comments or questions, contact us at the numbers below. Or you can tweet at Dr. Bonati using the hashtag American Medicine Today or hashtag AMT. We would like to hear from you.